Hello, so today I'm here to make buttermilk rusks. They're South African delicacy. Tastes like shortbread, dipped in coffee, or you can eat it just like that. It's really delicious. So there's a few things that I had to get ready beforehand before I start mixing everything. This recipe makes a batch, so I make 3 batches, which equals to about 7.3 kilos roughly, when it's all dried. So but you can just make 1 batch as well, that's fine. I just do it because the buttermilk is in a 600 grams carton, so I just like to use it all and make enough, because they can stand for like 6 months packaged well. So they are, because they dried out. So it's really nice to make a big batch, get it all done. And so yeah, so let me show you what I all got ready. So I've got the butter ready, that needs to be softened. Desiccated coconut, salt, oil, flour. Got a buttermilk, baking powder, and the eggs. And then I've got a small container to measure out the eggs in. I've got a scale, I always use a scale. That is to the jug and whisk to measure out the wet ingredients, sorry. Then I've got extra containers to measure out the sugar and flour and coconut and things like that. And I've got a huge bowl here to mix my things in, and I put a little non-slip mat underneath just to make it easier, then it doesn't slip around when I start mixing the ingredients together. And then on my other bench I've got 6 of the baking pans, so that's a 9-inch by 13-inch. I've sprayed it and I lined it with baking paper, and I always have a small bowl of oil next to it, so that when I put half of the batter in each tray per batch, then I smooth it out and then I just rub some oil on top just to give it a nice crunchy top. And I forgot to mention that I use a sieve as well and a pair of measuring spoons. Alright, so the first thing I do is I just make sure that the butter is softened. This is not, so it's still hard. So I'm going to put this in the microwave for a little bit. Okay, so that took about 30 seconds. So now it's nice and soft. You don't want it melted, just soft enough to work with it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out the flour. Just need to get it back into grams. It's about 1,300 grams or 1.3 kgs. So I measure it out in the bowl. Sorry, I did measure out in the sieve first, but I forgot that I normally just do it in the bowl. Then I add it into the big bowl and I just sieve it through like that, a little bit at a time, because it is quite a lot of flour to do. And then I'm going to measure out the sugar, which is 510 grams. And then I do the same. I just measure it out like that. Desiccated coconut, so 120 grams. I just measure that out. And then I throw it next to the sieve, because obviously it's not going to go through the sieve. Baking powder, that's 8 teaspoons. And the salt, 1.25 teaspoons. Set those together. And just give it a bit of a mix like this. Just incorporate all the ingredients. So now I'm going to put in the buttermilk. That's 200 grams. Give it a good shake before you open it. If you don't have buttermilk, what you can do as well is use still 200 grams of milk and a teaspoon of tartic acid or something like that to just to curdle the milk. And the milk is 150 grams. Then I'm going to crack in the eggs one by one in a little bowl. So we do 4 eggs. Give this a very good whisk. Just to combine everything. That looks good. So now I leave that aside, and then I've got my softened butter, the flour, the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients. So what I'm going to go in now is put in the butter, and then I'm going to just start breaking it into the flour so that it becomes crumbs. It takes a bit of time, but yeah, it's quite therapeutic. Very nice. So I just keep mixing it. I do use blue gloves because if I use normal white color or something and it tears, it can get mixed in with the flour, and you don't want that. So it's really looking good. It's like crumb-like. I use unsalted butter, and I just add my own salt as I want. Alright, that looks good. Most of the big pieces of butter is gone. I just rub it in between my hands like that to make it like a crumb. Let it, there we go. And I just make a bit of a hole in the middle. Add the wet ingredients. Put my big bowl to measure out when it's all mixed in. So just going to go in like that and incorporate it. This you don't want to over mix. I mix it just until it comes together. So it's a nice workout. So just like that. So I go in underneath, bring it over and around like that, just to make sure I get all the flour. So I go underneath, bring it towards me, and just push it back in. Like that. That's what gives it that nice shortbread, so that you don't over mix. So there's still a little bit of flour, so I'm just going to do it a little bit more, just until it's just incorporated. There you go. So this all together makes about 3 kilos. So I'm going to then I just break it in half like that, and then I measure out roughly 1.5 kilos. So this is the second half. So then I'm going to put that now in the containers, and I'll show you the rest. So now I've put both, or half of, into each container. What I do now is just break it up a bit and then distribute it there into the corners of it, that you get a bit of an even distribution like that. Just press it into the corners, make sure it's even, more or less. And I'll do the second one. Alright, then I take the oil that's in that little bowl and pour it quite a bit on my hand, just like that, and just spread it out like that, both pans. And I forgot to mention that I preheated my oven to 170 degrees Celsius. The original recipe says 180, but my oven is too hot, so I just do it at 170. And then I just rub it on the top. Like so. And I'm going to put this in the oven and bake it for, on the middle rack, in the middle of the oven, for 27 to 28 minutes, sometimes 30. It depends on what it looks like. It needs to look a bit light brown on the outside at the top here, so then I know it's ready. I do want to mention too that I do have a really big oven, and that's why I'm able to put both trays in at once. But if you've only got the smaller oven, then one tray would be good. So yeah, so let me finish these off and then I'm all done with mixing everything. Alright, so I've got all my batches ready now, and then I've got 2 rulers that I measure the rusks when they come out, and I've got a serrated knife to cut it. And then I'm going to just leave it to cool for a little bit before cutting it, for just probably about 10 minutes. Cut it and then let it stand for another 30 minutes or so, just to come down to not room temperature, but just that it's cool. And then I'm gonna put it on my cooling rack before. Wait till everything is done. So I'm just gonna have a look. Yeah, it looks okay. So it's got like a light brown. So I'll take that out. So it's been about 10 minutes now. So I'm just gonna cut it now. So I normally cut it in 8 centimeter sections, so it makes about 4 across. Cut it through just gently, because it is still warm. Then I cut the sides about finger width, probably roughly. Both sides. Take the other ruler and I measure, so it's about 1.5 centimeters on each side. Just roughly get it the same, and then I measure at the 10 centimeter in the middle there. That's equal amounts. Cut that through. Then I go in half. And then I cut those halves. It makes about, I think, 80 pieces. Finger size, roughly. There we go, both trays are cut now, and that makes 80 pieces altogether for that 2 trays. So yeah, so now I'm going to let them cool down for about 30 minutes. Turn it out. So I just put my cooling rack above it. And I'm going to turn it around like that. Let the bacon pan off. I'm just going to leave those to cool down completely. When it's cooled down, want to show you what it looks like, the size of it. So it's quite a nice size. Just clean your oven trays, and then you just line them up on there, making sure there's enough space between them that the air can flow through it. So I've got my oven on fan bake, and then I'm going to put it just under 100 degrees Celsius. Close this just very gently that they don't fall. And you're not going to close the oven door completely. I normally take my oven mitt thing, just make it not too thick and not too thin. Now put it into the door, so it's a little bit open, and I'm going to set the timer for 5 hours, sometimes 6 hours, and then they'll come out dry. They need to be hard, not soft anymore. You would feel it. It mustn't be soft in the center. It needs to be completely dry. It takes up to 5, I can say 6 hours, depending on how you pack your oven. Then you take them out, put it into a container, let it cool down completely before closing the container completely. You can keep it for 6 months and enjoy. So that's how you do the buttermilk rusks. I know this is a very long video, but it's just the process of it, and I really want to credit this recipe to Charmaine Robertson. She shared the recipe with me, and it's really blessed a lot of people. So yeah, enjoy and happy baking, and remember to put lots of love into your baking, because people taste it. Okay, have an awesome day.